I recently got an interesting question under my video about monocots versus dicots. I decided to answer this question in this short video, as this is a complex topic with quite a complicated answer. Or maybe it won't be that complicated after all. Let's dive into it. First of all, if you haven't watched my video about monocots versus dicots, go and give it a watch, as now I'm going to build onto it and develop the topic a little bit further. I talked to you about angiosperms, the flowering plants, being divided into monocots and dicots. This division comes mainly from the number of cotyledons, the embryonic leaves, in the seed. Monocotyledon means one embryonic leaf, and dicotyledon means two embryonic leaves. But the number of cotyledons is not the only character. To categorize a plant as a monocot or as a dicot, we also look at other morphological features, such as leaf shape and its venation, number of flower parts, or type of roots. This division of plants into two strict groups was first officially introduced by English naturalist John Ray in his book Methodus Plantarum Nova, published in 1682. Back then, classification of plants was based on observable morphological characters, grouping plants with similar features together. This, what I would call basic division, has been used and taught ever since. However, there have always been plants and plant families that never really fit any of the categories precisely, since they show a mix of characters from both categories. And this is not a coincidence. With advances in science, we no longer rely only on morphological characters to classify organisms into groups. With DNA sequencing, we can now better determine evolutionary relationships between organisms. And thanks to the scientists working on these evolutionary relationships using DNA sequencing, we now know why some plant families don't quite match all the characters of either group, and why the subdivision of angiosperms is more complex than splitting them into two neat groups. So based on the latest genetic work, we now know that the first angiosperm lineages to diverge were these three groups: Amborellales, Nymphiales, and Austrobaileales. These three groups are together referred to as Basal Angiosperms. The next branching lineage is the Magnoliates, and after that, two more groups or lineages branched off: monocots and Eudicots, which are sister groups, meaning they split from each other at the same time and are thus each other's closest relatives. This might be a little difficult to understand if you're not familiar with phylogenetic trees. Let me know if you'd like me to get into this topic in a future video. Monocots form a clearly defined monophyletic group. You can see they're all together on one branch. On the other hand, what we would define as dicots are separated, and we can find plants with dicot characters on multiple branches: all the basal angiosperms, Magnoliates, and Eudicots. However, they don't form an evolutionarily coherent group. So we can informally refer to every angiosperm, excluding monocots, as a dicot. But what are Eudicots then? Sometimes confusingly referred to as true dicots, Eudicots are the largest group of flowering plants, comprising around 75% of them. The unique feature of this group is that their pollen grains are tricolpate or tricolpate derived. Although it sounds complicated, you can basically imagine the pollen grain as having three grooves or apertures. For this reason, Eudicots, which is a relatively new term, used to be called tricolpates. So should the terms dicots and Eudicots be used interchangeably? Well, they shouldn't be, because they don't refer to the same group. In fact, there is no dicot group in an evolutionary sense, but there are multiple groups of plants that demonstrate dicot features. I think that understanding monocot versus dicot characters is still valid and valuable to learn. Just be aware that the classification of angiosperms is more complex than just two neat groups, and that there is no dicot group, just groups with what we would call dicot features. If you found this video helpful, please share it with others. And if you have any additional questions, please put them into comment section below this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.